Hi everyone. So I know that before we left school, we were reading The Underwear Dare, and we were reading the second book in the series, all about the zoo. I know this was a book that many of you loved, and it brought some humor and smiles into your day. And I know this was a nice time of the day when we would come back from lunch and you'd sit down and we'd read this book together. And it was just a nice time for us to come together, relax, and laugh with each other. So I figured while we are stuck at home and you're doing some of these assignments, this is a fun break from some of the assignments where you can listen to me read you the rest of The Underwear Dare. So before I start reading the book, I'm going to recap what we've read because it's been a really, really long time. So let's recap. So from the beginning, we have Eddie, Josh, Manny, Paul, Chelsea, Bria, and Marina. They're all classmates, and they were working together in a group project to name the Patas monkey at the local zoo. They were competing against other classmates to name the monkey. They won the contest and ended up naming the monkey Chortles. So they went to the zoo overnight with three of their teachers. They went with Mr. and Mrs. Kyres and Mrs. Freidenberger, the meanest substitute since Schneidendorf. Once they got to the zoo, Mrs. Kyres was pregnant and she had to deliver her baby because her water broke. So she had to rush to the hospital and said, "Oh, Freidenberger, you're in charge." At this point, the kids were kind of like, "Oh no," but they weren't going to let Miss Freidenberger being in charge ruin their class trip to the zoo. So then they met Hog, which I'm sure all of you remember who he is. He was the director of the zoo, and he showed them around the zoo. We kind of were a little skeptical of him. We kind of thought, he might not be that responsible. There were a lot of clues that made us think he's kind of irresponsible. Um, and they were walking around the zoo and looking at different things. And then Freidenberger got really annoyed because the students were on their phones. And she was like, "Back in my day, we didn't have phones." And she said, "Send one last text message to your parents and then give me your phones. No more phones." So she took their phones and she put them in a plastic bag. So they're kayaking around Monkey Island. Hopefully, you remember this part. And all of a sudden, Mrs. Freidenberger saw a giant beehive. She got really scared because she's afraid of bees. She stood up in her kayak, which you should never do, and ended up falling over. And she fell in as well as the bag of cell phones. So Freidenberger wasn't really doing well. Eddie jumped in after her to try to save her, and the cell phone bag floated all the way over to Monkey Island. So now the monkeys have the kids' cell phones, and Freidenberger is out for the count because Eddie gave her medicine, and then when she went to the nurse's station, they gave her more medicine, so she's knocked out for a while. So the kids have no adult with them besides Hog, who were kind of like, is he really the most responsible adult? So then our point was proven true because I think you all probably remember this part too. When Hog was doing a demonstration of how to use a tranquilizer gun, and he ended up accidentally shooting himself in his butt. So I think that was a fun part for all of us. I'm sure you remember that. So he ended up knocking himself out for quite a while. So now the kids are all alone. There are no adults anywhere. It's just the kids alone in the zoo for the night. What madness could happen? I mean, so much. I'm sure you remember the poop fight with the monkeys when the monkeys came into the aviary and decided to throw their poop at the kids. Um, then the kids decided to split up into teams to try to find their monkeys. Remember, their team names were their favorite cereal and their favorite cartoon character mixed together. So those are some funny names. Eddie and Josh decided to stay up in the aviary with Eddie's night vision binoculars to make sure that everyone was okay and to keep watch of the aviary while the other kids went out to different parts of the zoo. Eddie and Josh noticed that one of the groups was in trouble by looking at through the binoculars, and they ended up zip lining down from the aviary to Monkey Island to try to save their friends. And that's where we left off. I'm like 99% sure. So I'm going to read you the next two chapters of The Underwear Dare, and I hope you enjoy them. All right, chapter 13. I remember seeing a small shack on a map in the administrative offices. It's located on the east side of the island. We'll find the door that leads to the underground tunnel. Back to the treehouse, Eddie said as he pulled a compass out of his vest pocket and shone the flashlight on it. The island was kind of spooky at night. We all followed Eddie in a single file line as he made his way toward the east side of the island. That was brave of you to use the zip line to come save us, Chelsea whispered behind me. Oh, it was nothing, I said, and turned bright red again. Eddie held up his hand in a fist to signal, stop. It's straight ahead, he whispered covertly. Why are we whispering? Marina whispered. I don't know, he answered in a whisper, and then repeated it in a more manly voice. I don't know, he said loudly. The shack was just that, a concrete square building with a solid metal door and one small window set very high. Eddie tried the door and found it locked. We're going to have to break in. I've got a plan. Eddie reached into a vest pocket and pulled out his ABC gum wad, which we know means already been chewed. And then he pulled some firecrackers from his backpack. I'll secure the firecrackers to the lock using this gum. Then I'll light the fuse and we'll all run for the hills. What hills? I asked. It's just an expression that means to run really fast away from the explosion. Duh. Oh, here's the bad part. The gum has been sitting for a while, so it got all hardened up. There's too much for me to soften on my own, so everyone will have to chew some to get it soft again. Ew, all three girls said at once, and I agreed. Men, we can't expect the girls to help. You know, girl cooties and all, Eddie said as he divided the gum into 4 chunks. He handed each one of us a chunk. Manny popped his into his mouth and began chewing quickly. Not bad, he said with a full mouth. I think it was great. It was, Eddie mumbled back. Paul looked a little sick to his stomach, but he chewed reluctantly. The girls were just staring at us with mouths agape. I popped the ABC gum into my mouth and told myself it was a nice, new, unchewed piece of gum so I wouldn't throw up. I didn't want to be the only boy not to man up in front of the girls, especially after my super girly scream. We chewed for a while and then Eddie collected the gum. I happily spit mine into his hand. He fastened the firecrackers to the keyhole with the gum and lit the fuse. We all ran for the hills like we were in a war movie, escaping a grenade. We ducked behind a downed log, covering our heads to protect ourselves from exploding door fragments. After a few moments, we heard a small pop. I looked at Eddie, and he shrugged. Seems like it would have been louder, he whispered. Yeah, let's take a look, I answered. We crept forward cautiously. Our faces fell when we saw the door. It looked like the keyhole had tried to blow the world's biggest bubble and succeeded. The door was covered in gum, but the lock held steady. Steady as a lock, Eddie said. Eddie sighed. If only we had the key, I said. Oh my gosh, guys, we do have the key, Marina said. We do? I asked. Yes, Eddie does. Remember when you took the keys from Hogg? I'm sure one of them was a master key, she said. Eddie dug in his pocket and produced Hogg's keys. He walked to the door and tried to put the biggest key into the keyhole. Oh, it won't go. It's all jammed up with bubble gum, he said, deflated. All right, Bria, it's up to us, Chelsea said. Bria nodded like she knew what Chelsea was talking about. Bria and Chelsea walked around to the side of the shack and stood under the window. Bria bent her leg, and Chelsea expertly climbed from the crook in Bria's thigh to her shoulder. Chelsea grabbed Bria's hands and stood up like she did it every day. I recognized it as a cheerleading move. Chelsea was standing straight up on Bria's shoulders, and Bria was holding the back of Chelsea's legs to keep her steady. Bria moved right under the window as petite Chelsea scrambled through. A moment later, Chelsea stood in front of the open door, grinning happily. "Let's go," she said. I smiled at her, my new hero. A moment later, we were all creeping down the tunnel. It was a long concrete tunnel with reflective light set into the floor. It was still kind of dark and felt really eerie. It reminded me of the Fallout shelter in one of my video games. Gray and cold. No one really spoke when we were walking, like any noise might wake up a ghost or a killer robot just around the corner. I shivered. Finally, we got to the door of the treehouse. This time, Eddie did use the master key to open it. Everyone sighed as we crossed the threshold into the dark, but secure treehouse lobby. Okay, safe and sound. Now let's head back to the Canopy Cafe to formulate our next move, Eddie said. Next move? I think our next move should be to go to our rooms, snuggle into our sleeping bags, and wake up when this nightmare is over, I said. Paul and Marina nodded their heads in agreement. Negative, Eddie said. We still have to secure the monkeys, and then we can rest. To the Canopy Cafe! He pointed dramatically up the stairs. I reluctantly followed. When we reached the Canopy Cafe, Eddie popped into the walk-in cooler as we lit some candles on the table. Eddie came out of the cooler with an enormous strawberry cake balanced in one hand and a jug of milk in the other. Okay, troops, he said as he placed the cake on the table. Everyone knows an army moves on its stomach. So you brought us some cake? Marina asked as she cut the cake and put it on plates for everyone. What do you mean? You said an army moves on its stomach, so you brought us cake to fill our stomachs, right? She asked. No. I just thought some cake sounded good. But that's not what that expression means. It means that soldiers have to crawl around on their stomachs so the enemy doesn't see them. That's why they teach you to crawl on your belly underneath barbed wire in basic training. So, we need to make a plan that involves moving stealthily on our stomachs. An army moves on its stomach means that you have to feed the soldiers so they can stay strong and healthy. In other words, you need food for energy so you can fight, she said as she helped herself to some strawberry cake and a cold glass of milk. Eddie looked puzzled. I wish I had some chocolate cake, I said, knowing it would bug Eddie to think of it after the incident earlier this year when he gobbled up half a chocolate cake. I think I have a chocolate bar in my backpack, Manny said, and began rummaging around in his backpack. He pulled his hand out quickly and gave a startled cry. Ah! We all turned to look. What is it? I asked. There's something furry in there, and it moved, he shivered. All right, don't panic, Eddie said. Josh, go take a look, and I'll watch your back. What? Why me? Because you have small hands, and they fit better into the backpack. No, I don't. Okay, fine, I'll do it, Eddie said. Just then I looked over at Chelsea and suddenly got very brave. No, I'll do it. But not because I have little hands, which I don't. I cautiously walked over to Manny's backpack. Everyone turned their helmet lights on me to help me see. I tried to peer in at first, but couldn't see anything. I opened the backpack and peered in. Something moved. I jumped back a little, and everyone behind me jumped a little too. There's something in there. Manny was right, I said breathlessly. What is it? Eddie asked nervously. Be careful not to hurt it, Marina added. Yes, Josh, be careful. We don't know what's in there, and it could bite, Eddie added. Thanks a lot. I screwed up my courage to have another look. Or it could be poisonous, he added. That did it. Courage gone. Hello, chicken. Just then, Chelsea passed by me and reached into the backpack. She let out an "aww" as she pulled out a baby Patas monkey. It was Chortles, the monkey we had all helped to name. Chortles leapt out of Chelsea's arms and crawled up my leg. He wedged himself firmly in the crook of my arm and nestled his head into my chest. He likes you, she said. He certainly appeared to